Hey, everybody. First of all, apologize for last night, but came back, had a lot to catch up with. And so I should have put out, hey, I'll be back Wednesday. But I figured, you know what? I'm just going to take my lumps and move forward. I did not attend the NFL owners meeting because I have a media engagement here I had to take care of, which is good. It means that the company is growing and everything else. It also means that I need to raise serious money to hire people to be in other cities to contribute content to the brand, right? And that's the next step because it's getting to the point where there's a way that I do things that I think, for example, my friends Richard Hike and Morgan Bach in particular really get how to do the kind of media, the Zenny 62 style, both live stream and also video, vlogging, holding the camera, your smartphone horizontally, not vertically, where you get the bars, right? Get the aspect ratio, all that. Okay. So I just need to expand. I need to go about doing that. Also, where I am at is in a great place overall. I am, frankly speaking, miss my mom. So I'll be getting back to her Friday. And actually probably Friday night going into Saturday morning. And I have to basically take some time with respect to Georgia and all it's with that. Okay. I'm starting to mumble because I'm mumbling because I'm deliberately leaving some things out. That's the way that goes. So I'll stop mumbling and I'll get right to the point. The Oakland Raiders are not at all not tanking the season. There's this idea I've heard from a number of people that I think is absolutely ridiculous. That, the Raiders are they're planning for a Las Vegas move. I'm actually putting this on Facebook as I say this. They're planning for a Las Vegas move, and they are trying to plan so that they have more draft picks to build a winning team in Las Vegas. Look, that's not what's happening. Okay, first of all, the Raiders, as Morris Bradshaw told me, now 2 seasons ago, actually, no, it wasn't even 2 seasons ago, it was last season, time flies, that they really wanted to bring a Super Bowl to Oakland. That was the idea. But what happened between 2017 and now is the considerable expenditures that are associated with relocating to Las Vegas and building a stadium, and also not dealing with the fact that they're not going to say this, but overall, their PSL sales can't be going as well as they let on. And overall, and I think London was a sad example of it, the Raiders brand isn't as popular as the Raiders would like everyone to think it is. Look, they're not winning. And London was embarrassing, not the outcome so much as the fact that, and Ed Goins, who is the Seahawks vice president, general counsel, pointed this out on his Facebook page. He's a friend of mine. And he said, hey, everyone talks about Raider fans, but more Seahawks fans here than Raider fans. Ouch. I mean, that was a huge ouch, okay? It's a gigantic ouch, all right? Ouch. There's no other way to describe it other than ouch. I don't know the official count. I'm sure someone has it, but or is an estimate, or an official estimate, but it looked like Seahawks fans had just overran London versus Raider fans. I'm not saying that Raider fans weren't there, of course. Like some of the people watching here went, like Leland Tracy, big Raider fan, made a go of it. He's now in Paris. Leland is a regular watcher of this program. He and a Facebook friend now. He's in Paris. He went from London, then he took the Channel, settled in Paris, I think yesterday. He's having a blast, That's the way to do it. 2 thumbs up, Leland. Nice job, man. But I digress. The Raiders simply have to deal with the following. All right, first of all, let's add up. Let's consider the expenditures the Raiders have made with respect to the stadium already. They purchased the land, okay, and that's what that was what 77 million. Okay, 77 million. Ding. They spent about 189 million dollars on the stadium so far to date of their own money by accounts. So we've got 189 plus 77. That gives us it's $266 million right there. Okay. Then this is just stadium stuff. All right. So let's just stop right there. That's 266 million. That's $250 million that they've had to spend already. Okay. $250 million. All right. And so the problem is that you have that expenditure excuse me, I'm typing something. I'm saying I meant to say click on the words. Click on the words. I'm telling a friend of mine on Facebook. Okay, I'm saying click on the words and join the live stream. Click on the words and join the live stream, Carl. Okay. Like that. That's what I'm doing. Yeah. Boom. Okay. I'm saying click on the words and join the live stream, Carl Rose. Longtime friend. He's been on the show before. Anyway, my point is that the Raiders, that's $250 million that they've already spent just for 2 things. The land and the stadium construction out of their pocket to date, if we are to believe the documents that are coming out of the Las Vegas Stadium Authority, and why not? And then, of course, we have player expenditures. And then, of course, you have the cost to move administration, establish offices in Vegas, pay personnel, and so on. So that is a far less expenditure. Let's say that's $1 million. But when you have an extra $266 million that you're expending, all right, and your net operating income last year was $41 million. Well, actually, it was less than that. $40 million, okay? Somewhere in there, maybe less than that. You've got a problem, all right? You have a problem. And because if you were to believe, if you're to say, okay, if I just type right now as I'm doing, Oakland Raiders, then value Forbes. Oakland Raiders Forbes value. Okay, Raiders are number 34 Forbes most valuable. That's not the whole deal. Okay, that's not the most important statistic for what we're talking about. The most important statistic is excuse me, I'm actually going for the Forbes result here. Excuse me. There it is. All right. The most important statistic is this, okay? It is revenue. Raiders took in $355 million in revenue, according to this, last year. They have a net operating income of $24 million. I stand corrected. All right. So you have, if you think about it, with the $266 million the Raiders have to spend on the stadium alone, over that you would say, well, Zinni, they're getting it from the line of credit. And I would say, okay, they're getting it from the line of credit. But the Raiders have not reported how much of the line of credit from the Bank of America they're actually getting, what the drawdown was, or if they actually got it. What we do know is that they received $568 million for stadium construction. Okay. $568 million for stadium construction. That's less than the total of $650 million they're expected to receive from for the bond issue, the proceeds. Okay. So when you add when you think about what I'm telling you, first of all, everything is less. For example, they don't have all the money from the bond issue, all the proceeds. As we know, the stadium revenue, the $48 million that they're supposed to receive, is actually less than what they really thought they were going to get from the PAYGO. In other words, collecting the stadium tax, hotel stadium tax revenue, was supposed to net them $60 million, not $48 million. So they're off by $12 million, roughly, okay? Because Las Vegas visitation rates weren't what people thought they were going to be. And as a result, the revenue, and not only that, as I've said before, on infinitum times, the stadium hotel tax rate is too small. It's 88/100, so 1%. It's too small. Okay. And it's interesting questions. Vincent Sanchez asks, he says, I think Mark is going to be forced to sell a portion of the team. Interesting statement. I'll get to that in a second. And Lawrence Val says, do you think Mark Davis will sell the team? I think that Mark is in a position where he's definitely has to be thinking about it. He has to be, because in a normal situation, the Raiders, the $266 million that I announced to you for the stadium, it had to cut into player expenditures. Here's why, and let me explain something to you that goes back to my Oakland baseball sim world. I developed 2 games for use in the college classroom for sport manager programs. One is called the XFL sim world, which challenges you to make the right decisions to basically keep the XFL alive longer than the 1 year that it was alive in actual practice in 2000. That's the first one. The second one, hey, Adonis, how you doing? The second one is called the Oakland Baseball Sim World. And basically what I learned, first of all, and then what I presented in the games that I made, or simulations, which are actually used in 40 different colleges and high schools around the world, including the University of San Francisco, Georgia Tech. I had some great colleges on the list. You can go to sportsbusinesssims.com and check, and the site's still up for sports business simulations, or just type sports business simulations in Google, right? But I digress. Basically sports teams consists of 2 primary money-making operations. There's the team and the stadium. Okay, the team makes its money via merchandise sales and ticket sales, which is where the stadium comes in. And then the stadium makes money by luxury suites and sponsorships primarily. Okay, so you have luxury suites and sponsorships, like, for example, naming rights. In many cases with NFL teams or sports teams, not just the NFL, but the naming rights are split between the team's needs and stadium construction. If you get enough money, hopefully you're able to have something that's left over. Okay, that's the stadium side. The team side is where you get, let's say, let's look at the Bears. The Bears got Khalil Mack. The Bears also got a huge bump up in terms of merchandise sales because people buying Ugobs of number 52 jerseys, right? That is a benefit to the Chicago Bears. It's also a benefit the Oakland Raiders lost. The Oakland Raiders lost that benefit, okay? So, hey, Arturo, how you doing? So on the team side, you have those are the revenues, the primary revenues for the team. Then the expenses are what? It's player payroll and player development costs. What are the player development costs? Such things as, well, training camp, gymnasium, scouts, paying scouts to go around the country, lawyers, dealing with, whatever might happen legally to help get them out of that situation, okay? Arturo, I'm doing well, thank you, all right? That's the team side. So what happens if you're building a new stadium, right? And you decide that, as the Raiders are, you're going to be the one that develops it. You take on a whole other cost. You have to make sure you have enough revenue coming in to build the stadium so that the stadium revenue covers the stadium costs. And guess what? You don't have any losses that then hurt your ability to build a great team, because these go together to form the team, right? Where the Raiders are right now is my contention, my assertion, based on study, my hypothesis, educated guess based on study, is that the Raiders are spending more money here than they have revenue, and it's cutting into team operations, which explains why they went on that, I call it, fire sale of an NFL draft strategy. They got, and then on top of that, you had Mark Davis, who, well-meaning, wants to bring a Super Bowl to Oakland. So he tries for 6 years to get Gruden, and he gets them. But unfortunately, when he gets him at $100 million guaranteed, his timing turned out to be awful. And then to, pile bad stuff on the bad stuff, the Raiders are not winning, which does what? It hurts ticket sales. It hurts sponsorship value. It hurts value for the team now, because when you're not winning, people don't buy stuff that's associated with you. And not only that, when you're leaving, okay, your fan base goes, hey, I'm not interested anymore. People are disinterested in what you do for two reasons. A, you're leaving, and now you're losing. You're not just losing, you're losing big. That is the worst scenario any team in any sport can have. That's the scenario the Raiders are in right now. They're leaving, which means they're abandoning their storied fan base. They don't have an equivalent one in Las Vegas. Okay. The Niners make more money here than the Raiders do. Where are they? They're 34th in terms of value on the NFL list. They went up, sure, but they're 34th. They're 34th? That's what it said, 34th. Did I read that right? Yeah. Okay. I'm going to get to your comments, and then I'll get back to, did I read that right? Hold on a second. Oakland Raiders and the teams, it says Oakland Raiders value. They're 18th in the NFL team valuations. They went up. They're at $2.420 billion. All right. They're 18th. So they are below the halfway point. Below the halfway point. Okay. And the revenue per fan is said to be $34 at this point. Al Davis paid $180,000 to buy the Raiders in 1966. Wow. I mean, that's something. The Coliseum's estimated value is only $166 million, as is. Okay. It's, yeah. So anyway, let me get to your comments. All right, working backward. Rams, this is Jim L. Hey, Jim L., how you doing? This is the most recent comment. Jim L. says, Rams moved, winning. Chargers winning. Need to fill new stadium. Raiders are next in winning. They're third, more popular. Black Lion says, I said for the beginning that losing Mac had to do with Davis and not Gruden. Vincent Sanchez says, do the Raiders still owe money to Alameda for the remodel of the training facility? I was under the impression that they paid for that out of pocket. I didn't think that they actually borrowed for that from Alameda at all. The original, I mean, if you're talking about, there's two things. There's the training facility, which is part of the headquarters. The original headquarters was paid for by us, okay, for the Raiders. Do the Raiders owe us money on that? The Raiders, it was a non-recourse loan, all right? Now, one could argue that in the lawsuit, well, here's the thing. The non-recourse loan was never really a loan. It was in the case of, maybe let me rephrase that. The non-recourse loan was never really a non-recourse loan. In other words, the way it's structured, it accrues in value. And right now it's up to just over $200 million. It started originally at $64 million. The California Supreme Court ruled that the money that $64 million the Raiders got from the East Bay entities from the city of Oakland and County of Alameda was actually, because it had shared with the NFL, a payment. It was a payment for relocating. It was a payment. And so that opens the door for a court argument saying, hey, look, because no one designed the deal, the Raiders deal, bringing the Raiders to Oakland with the idea that the Raiders were going to skip town again. Okay. In fact, it was designed with the idea that the Raiders are going to stay here for the rest of their lives as an organization. The thought of relocation wasn't even considered. The thought of that the Raiders would skip out on us wasn't considered at the time. It did come up, however, when we sued them, we being the East Bay entities, after they returned. And I was economic advisor to Oakland Mayor Elihu Harris at the time, and I got that letter from Amy Trask. I still may have it in my files. Ooh, I gotta check that out. The letter, and I'm not trying to be offensive to Amy or anything. It was kind of a gobbledygook letter, and I didn't interpret it as then Oakland City Attorney Jane Williams and then Oakland Coliseum Joint Powers Authority Executive Director Dina McClain looked at it, which was, they thought it was a threat to leave. And so against my request not to sue the Raiders, because I felt that someone should just call Amy, have a meeting with her, sit down and address her concerns regarding how the PSL sales went south, what we can do to mitigate the problem and move forward. They wanted to outright sue, okay? Because they thought the Raiders were just going to simply dump this and then go right back to Los Angeles. That was their thinking. My thinking was, well, gee, they're too far down the pike to do that. That's an extra expenditure on them. But hey, look, before I could make any sense to them, they filed a lawsuit. They filed it while Elihu was in China. I objected, but he came back and Elihu rubber stamped the lawsuit. They had reasons. And so that entered a flanks of litigation between the Raiders, the city of Oakland, the East Bay entities, and the National Football League itself. Okay. So it was a pretty messy period for everybody. The early aughts, as they call the 2000s, right? So anyway, that episode, and what I got from that episode, and this goes back to the non-recourse loan, all right, is that we always looked at that at the time as kind of a ticking time bomb. The trouble is that we never, to this day, structured a way of actually getting the money back. Ezra Rapport, who was the architect of the Raiders deal, told myself, Valerie, who worked for Oakland District Seven Councilmember Larry Reed, and Lewis Cohen. In fact, I ran into Lewis about a month plus ago about this. And Lewis Cohen, he said, "Look, I want you three to memorize this deal, know this deal cold because nobody else cares." Word for word, master lease agreements, supplementals, everything else, word for word, how the deal is structured economically, etc. Okay. And in the middle of that conversation, Ezra told us that the idea, in other words, the Raiders were paying us back by being there. So that was the payback. As long as the Raiders stayed there, we were cool. There wasn't a formal loan structure as someone would look at it. It was informal. The idea was, hey, look, you're here, you're paying rent to us, we have all these benefits, and we're going to move forward. The finance people who've been writing the report, they didn't get it. They put in their text, hey, there needs to be some sort of formal way of gaining our money back. But the formal way of gaining our money back is really right, excuse my language, I'm about to curse, fucking there. They're sitting there, counting this money out year after year, and now we're up to 218 million, actually a little north of that. There's your money. That's it. So when all of you were, some of you have said, we're trying to get the name and all that. Folks, get that shit out of your fucking head. Excuse me for cursing, but I'm cursing because I'm frustrated because I hear it. Raj Mathai uses it, channel at what is it, KRON, and this other person at another station in the Bay Area. They're wrong. I don't care who tells it to you. All right? They're wrong. This has nothing to do with suing for the name. I think it was Jim Selinsky, great PR guy. He started that, and the Bay Area media picked it up, and it's still in their head because it's simple and it sounds cool, but it ain't the truth. Okay, get it out of your head. What we're suing for, there are a number of causes of action, and it may come down to it will come down to in the court proving those causes of action that were done. We're not suing for the name at all. That's a settlement issue. What we have to prove is, first of all, that, hey, the NFL didn't follow its own relocation agreement. That's a court issue. So we have to win that argument, all right? Then we have to prove, and this is really easy, that the Raiders did not deal with the city of Oakland in a good faith effort way, okay? That's the other one. Are you listening? Welcome to Zenny62, okay? Are you listening? That's the other one. And there are 4 or 5 other torts that are on the table that are, in my estimation, pretty winnable for us. I'm not going to lay them all out here, but they're pretty winnable for us. And why do I say us? Because, look, I was economic advisor for LU when they came back. I've been involved in this in a number of different ways. Economic advisor, as a columnist with Montclair and Monty Poole, claimed that I'm the person who said that, I broke the story the Raiders were returning. Then I served as a consultant to Robert Bob, and as you know, now I'm in media doing this. All right, so I have a number of hats I've worn since 1993 in this. I've lived this. The commissioner of the NFL knows I've lived this. I tried to bring a Super Bowl to Oakland. That's the other thing. I was head of a Super Bowl. Their non-bidding committee that I assembled from scratch. So I've got a lot of history here, a ton. And so, whether you like it or not, whether you acknowledge it or not, whether you value it or not, you can't take it away from me because I'm not going to let you. All right. Now, let me get to your comments and continue. Jim L says NFL is fixed. Oh, I'm going down. I'm getting your comments. Raider 24 high. Let me go back and see what I missed here. Miguel Chris says they're broke. That's my argument. Yes. Raider 24 says, all that money Mac got, and all of a sudden he's hurt. Shaking my head. He is? Is that a new thing? Wow. Morrisville says, Davis seems like a bad businessman, or is that? Or is he suffering from Al's mistakes by giving players outrageous contacts in the past? Black Lion says, Mac is hurt. Let me, because I didn't know that until now. Khalil Mack. Khalil Mack is, let's see. Khalil Mack does not appear amused by questions comparing. Anyway, let's see here. Mac day-to-day. Mac sits out practice Wednesday, considered day-to-day. He's considered, he's day-to-day. Let me see what the NFL, let me see if the Bears filed the NFL report. I'm going to go to NFL communications and see what comes up in terms of transactions. Oh, there's Commissioner Gale's news conference. Cool. I have to put that up. Let's see here. Kansas City, San Francisco. No, don't see any anything involving him. Let's see. It was the injury report would be it. Let me sign in. Get the information for you. A moment, please. See if the Bears are listing here. Okay, Week 7 injury report Wednesday. All right, Broncos at Arizona Cardinals on Thursday night. I'll skip over that. Skip all the way down to Bills, Carolina Panthers, Browns, Cowboys, Lions, Dolphins, Texans at Jaguars, Rams at Niners. Ooh, trap game. That's Patriots at Bears. All right. Practice report. Did not participate in practice on Wednesday. Tackle Marcus Cannon, concussion. He's the only person listed. Limited participation in practice. And then they have a practice report. Did not participate in practice. Marcus Cooper Wednesday, and then Khalil Mack ankle. So there it is. So he has that ankle injury, didn't participate. He is hurt. And so we'll just have to see how that shakes out. The commissioner, the NFL, and thank you very much, I have to say, posted the news conference, which I'll post on Zinni62. Oh, he answered. He says, on the new LA stadium in the league, helping the Chargers build a fan base in LA, differences between visits to LA is last year compared to this year. And Roger Goodell said the biggest difference between last year's visits and this year's visits is the stadium. I had the chance to go through the stadium 2 weeks ago. It's extraordinary in every sense of the word. It's going to set a new standard for stadiums on a global basis. I'm confident it will be known as not only the best stadium, but also the best complex in the world. That excitement is going to build as we get closer, as we are still 2 years away. There's lots of football and lots of buildings still to do. We were out of the market for a long time. We have to earn our way back with our fans. We have to build that relationship back with our fans and make sure that we do it right. Both teams are committed to that, and it will be something that we will have to work at over time. They both have very exciting teams, and that'll be helpful. Also, all those things will come together over the next 2 years. That was it on that one. And here's a note. Oh, by the way, an update to where the Oakland Raiders will play in 2019. Roger says, no, there isn't. No, as you know, they're negotiating. We didn't get an update on that. We did get an update on Las Vegas Stadium from the Raiders and the Rams and the Chargers in Los Angeles. We did not have any discussion on that, but we know that they're negotiating, and we hope that will get resolved soon. So there. And I know Roger was dying. Roger was probably dying for me to be there to help him fill in some blanks. But there you go. All right. Black Lion says, now I'm going through your comments. Black Lion says, yes, and Mac has got an ankle problem. Joe Lopez says, Mark doesn't care about Oakland. His mind is on Las Vegas. Raider 24 says rolled his ankle, and now they say he's day to day. I think he won't be the same day after. Vincent Sanchez says, do the Raiders still owe money? I've answered that one. And so hold on a second. Trying to go back and get your comments here. Vincent Sanchez got that one. Black Lion says, I said from the beginning that losing Mac had to do with Davis and Gruden. I got that one before. I got Jim L's, like Miguel Lundquist. How you doing? Miguel says, so is the stadium going to be an abandoned craft? I don't understand that question. Lawrence Val, welcome to Zinni 62. Lawrence asks, he says, if they decide not to play in Oakland in 2019, they will lose more money if they play anywhere else for the year. If they're broke now, then what's going to happen? They lose more money in 2019. They'll be more broke. Lonely on Top says Raiders. I mean, here's the mark. When there's discussion of the Raiders needing an additional extension of debt from the NFL, and that could happen with the NFL, and they're not going to tell you unless you figure out who to ask and get it, right? But it wouldn't surprise me if they receive that kind of extension. I'll try to figure out if they've done anything to get more money if they're talking about it. But it's clear to me that, look, they're not liquid with this thing, okay? I don't care if you're saying they have enough money, but if it's a little bit and they're playing at the margins, folks, that's not where you want to be. You want to have a cushion. In every aspect of this stadium deal, there's no appreciable dollar cushion at this point in time. I'm talking about where you're saying, yeah, we got an extra $200 million for contingency. Where? Okay, it ain't there. So, all right. Lonely on Top says Raiders going to LA, Chargers are leaving, just got here. Miguel Lundquist says the Coliseum is saved. Big Eightful says if Oakland wins, what does Oakland want in return? I'll tell you right off the bat, what Oakland wants in return is ching dollars. And that's why this whole thing about the name, it doesn't begin to address the situation from the standpoint of the city of Oakland and the county of Alameda. The city of Oakland and the county of Alameda are interested in recovering what was lost from the $20 million total they had to spend out from the bond issue since the thing went, well, since they contractually chipped in to stop the bonds from going into default back in 1996, because we only sold $53 million worth of PSLs. We were really supposed to sell $83 million worth of PSLs. At that $83 million mark is where we trigger the expenditures that will allow the bond to be paid off. Instead, that didn't happen, and so that gap automatically triggered the default mechanism. It wasn't like, oh, well, you can pay us a little bit here, right? And then once your money gets better, then you can pay us out of that. That's not the way it works. When you default on a bond 1 year, it's considered what goes back into the process, or what starts the process then is whatever you contractually agreed to remedy the default. And in that case, the contractual remedy of the default was, hey, drawing from the city of Oakland and the county of Alameda's general fund. 10 million here, 10 million here, 20 million. That's what they want to recover. Big Eightful. Patrick and Blackman, how you doing? Got that. What's up, Patrick? And American military freedom has something that has nothing to do with this, so that's gone. Sorry about that. And I put that out there to remove it. It's gone. All right, now Joseph Armendara says, just read an article on Yahoo Sports about NFL and Chargers regretting NLI move. Any word about that? The owners meeting? Joseph, I didn't go to the owners meeting. I have a client here, media client I have to service. I did so, and I'm doing so, and I've through the week. So I something told me I had a meeting with my client on Monday, and the way things were, I thought, I need to stay here, so I didn't do that. And hey, there that is, and that's why I said and you weren't here on the outset, I need to raise money, like so that I can hire different people as vloggers around the country, including New York, who would be also part of the, Zenny 62 Media, but on the NFL list, and they can cover the owners' meeting for Zenny 62 Media, right? That's what I need. And so you would say, well, how much does that take? I would say 100,000 to do that right. Okay, comfortably 100,000 at the minimum, and then in total 10 million. Okay, and that's to build this the way that I want to build it, bring in the names, and then grow from there, and ultimately raise an additional, I would say, raise a total of 25 million. All right, and that would be fun. That would really get me where I believe we can take ourselves and take the videos and everything and actually put them on television, right? Yeah, I do have big plans, but why not? I mean, the basics are here. The live stream, the fact that this live stream goes on 16 of my own blogs, right? And the fact that Oakland News Now is a major news contributor. Okay, we have a system, a way of doing things, but it's done by me primarily and a couple of other people. Well, more than a couple, 5. Okay, so that's 2 paid, and the others are kind of volunteer for the most part, although we pay them here and there. I want to go beyond that. I want to be well financed. Okay, that's probably more than you asked for, but there it is. And that's the first time, actually, I wrote the NFL. I said, hey, here's what's going on, because I already had the plane picked out. I got my credentials and everything else. I knew I was going to ask. Boom. And not only that, if I were there, you would have seen the live stream from the commissioners. You would have seen that. You would have seen a bunch of live streams. I was really excited to test my new media system there. But hey, look, I'll get another shot. All right, I'll get another shot. All right. Hennessy says lawsuit coming. Miguel Lundquist says, is Las Vegas Stadium going to be left half built and abandoned? Is what I meant. Oh, woo! I hope not. I hope not for the future of Las Vegas. I think, oh, wow, that kind of scenario would be devastating to Las Vegas. And you're probably saying, yeah, I know that, but would it happen? It could happen. You have the Fontainebleau as evidence, right? It could happen. Will it happen? I certainly hope not. For this reason, look, yes, the Raiders clearly were not honest with the city of Oakland and the county of Alameda regarding their desire to go to Las Vegas. Oakland Councilman Larry Mead told me that straight up. Hey, they lied to us. He said that to me in 2016. Okay. They lied to us. Those were his words. They lied to us. And the lie came after the LA vote in Houston, when the city of Oakland, in particular the county of Alameda, the Joint Powers Authority, were under the impression collectively that the Raiders were just going to take some time off, get Larry McNeil settled in his new job as the stadiums are for the Raiders, right? And they would resume negotiations on the lease then later around March, okay, and leading into April. Instead, what did they do? Mark Davis gave a speech to the Southern Nevada Tourism Infrastructure Committee in March, and the Raiders set up on the course of planning a stadium in Las Vegas and not in Oakland. Okay. And caught everybody by surprise. For something that, as it turns out, they're planning since 2014 with the idea of wanting to catch gambling money. Okay. So, Gunnar says, who's going to take ownership of the Seahawks with Allen passing? Good question. Don't know the answer to that. However, I'm wondering if Steve Ballmer would, who owns the Clippers, would kind of lean over and say, right? Arturo Grano says, no more Bunny Ranch. So where is Pauper Davis going to hang out now? Hope Oakland wins the lawsuit, by the way. Um, there's Vegas is a great place. There's a lot of places to have fun. Hennessy says, just like Sacramento did back in the day. What do you mean? I don't want to answer in the affirmative or negative until I understand what you mean, Hennessy. Hennessy says when Sacramento wanted the Raiders. That's interesting. But Sacramento wanted the Raiders. I remember Sacramento wanting the A's. I was involved in that. But we negotiated a great deal with the A's. Andy Dolich represented the A's, tried to double cross me. I double crossed him. I love Andy to this day, but Andy, I got you, man. Okay, I gotta tell this story. Okay, Andy Dolich was the A's general manager at the time. Anyway, as I recall, we were discussing the new lease, and there was a split in utility costs, and we had a disagreement about that. We had a particular idea what we wanted, how we wanted to handle it with the A's. The A's had a different one. LU had an idea. I was basically sent to explain that idea to Andy. But Andy, like most people, I understand it from his position, he wanted to talk to the mayor. He didn't want to talk to me. He wanted to talk to the man. He didn't want to talk to the man that represented the man, right? So he basically tried to go around my back after I met with him and meet with Elihu on the same issue. Elihu hit the ceiling. So unbeknownst to Andy Dolich, what Elihu did was Elihu scheduled for me to be in that room. Okay. And so what happened was that Andy had brought Ignacio De La Fuente with him. So I sat there, and Elihu, and Ignacio was the president of city council at the time. So basically, here's Andy thinking he's, outgunned me, right? No. Elihu stood right behind me and said exactly the same words, kid you not, that I told Andy. And Andy turned red. Okay? Mess with me. Anyway, fun days, okay? Fun days, all right? Now, Hennessy talks about, and let me look at that. I don't want to be, Sacramento, Oakland Raiders. I'm typing in here to see if I get my memory jogged a bit here. NBC Sports says Sacramento Raiders, it was a done deal. The Raiders road is in Oakland and soon Las Vegas. Kings breaking down. This is something that came up, talking about way back in the past here with Al Davis. It was a done deal, huh? So it says this was, what year was this, though? Between 1987 and 1990. Looking for a new home after. That's interesting. You know what? I have to be honest with you. I know very little about that at all. So I'm not gonna. This is an interesting read. What I'm reading here is from NBC Sports, and it says between 1987 and 1990, Oakland Raiders owner Al Davis was looking for a new home for his team after a failed venture in Los Angeles. Armed with plenty of land and a $50 million commitment from City Council Greg Luckenbill and his Sacramento Kings partnership were in the running. It's all water under the bridge now. I was, during this time, I was an intern with the city of Oakland. 87 was my first year as an intern in the Oakland Office of Economic Development and Employment. But that matter didn't come my way. It says, armed with plenty of land and a $50 million commitment from the city council, Greg Luckenbill and his Sacramento Kings partnership were in the running. It was all water under the bridge now. Davis, along with plenty of other primary players from the deal, have long since passed. The Raiders eventually moved back to Oakland, where they'll stay for the next 2 years before relocating again, this time to Las Vegas. How close did Sacramento come to landing the Raiders? According to Luckenbill, what's happening was a done deal. We got the city council 9-0 vote to give Al Davis $50 million for the franchise fee to move here. Oh boy, they were asking for it. In a strange twist for the story, Davis would have become the managing partner of Sacramento Kings, as well as retain most of the ownership of the Raiders. We would have 25% of the Raiders, 25% of the stadium and the arena and the team, and Al would have had 75% over the Kings. Woo, that'd be a sweet deal for him. Yeah, and Al Davis is a basketball man, says that Al was focused on the Kings. He used to talk about it all the time. And so they said in the end, Davis dragged his feet. The Kings couldn't get all their partners on board. The city council eventually pulled the money. So, yeah. So anyway, that's interesting. You know, I mean, it reminds me of one fact. It's, you know, look, as long as there's a deal somewhere to be done, someone's going to try to get that deal out there done, right? So that's where it is. Cowboy Wrestler, how you doing? Hennessy says, check out the video. What video is this? I'm sorry. Let me go back, Hennessy. I apologize. Hennessy says, I read it, though. Maybe that's what you're talking about. Sorry about that. Did I do the right thing, Hennessy? Let me know. Raider Lou, how you doing? Raider Lou says, I'm just hoping the Raiders can beat the Niners. Nothing has went right since Las Vegas was approved, and Niner fans continue to disrespectfully rub it in our faces. It feels like that game is for dignity. I agree with you. I mean, it's just the question is to what extent are the players going to feel like it's for dignity, right? Black Lion says, see, we've heard done deal before. Yep. I hate that term. Skeleton Crew, how you doing? Welcome, Skeleton Crew. Welcome to Zinny62. Cowboy Wrestler says, CJ Beathard will beat the Raiders. Hennessy said, just type in, I got it. Oh, in the first video. I got that, okay? I'm not going to show the video here, but we got that story out of the way. Joseph Amendaris says, I just hope they stay in California. Where it be Los Angeles or Oakland, something tells me Vegas will bust. Jack Bauer, 24, says, will Raiders come back to Oakland in 30 years? I hope I'm alive in 30 years. Steiner Hot Wheels 93 says, I skipped this comment. Oh, are the Raiders still moving to Vegas? Yeah. I mean, look, I'm not the one saying the deal is off. There are people here, okay, because someone has this idea that I've said that or this isn't happening. I have never said that. They're in motion. What I am saying is they're broke because of it. Okay, I'm saying it's costing them more money than they can comfortably afford. And as an example I gave earlier, before many of you were here, you have the stadium and you have the team. And the stadium expenditure for the Raiders are such that they're, I mean, look, again, they've spent $250 million already, okay, that they're encroaching upon their ability to build a top flight organization, a team. This is a central model, this relationship of the games that I built online, the Oakland Baseball Sim World in particular, where you have a delicate balance between determining how much you're going to spend on building a stadium, okay? When Mark Davis asked me to come up with a plan, I advocated rehabilitating the current Coliseum, taking the east side, using that as the model for the entire stadium. What do I mean? The east side is more state-of-the-art than the west side. The west side was designed for the A's, which are building in the process of designing and building their new stadium, right? We would reform that, tear that material down, but retain the material, and I'll explain why in a second, and basically make that stadium into one design, producing the fans primarily on either side, very much like where the Seattle Seahawks play in CenturyLink Field, okay? A brilliant place. And then having it so that we have on the outside, we change that berm between the stadium and the arena into a kind of a 3-story mall. Why? Because if you go to an A's game or a Raider game now and you're waiting to get inside, you're tailgating, of course. But if you don't want to tailgate and you want to sit down, let's say it's raining, you've got no place to sit inside to enjoy a burger or a brew and wait for the game to start. This would give you that opportunity, and wait for this, stadium to open. This place would give you that opportunity, and it's additional revenue for the facility, right? Seems logical, okay? Davis didn't want a refurbishment. My estimate at the time was a refurbished stadium would cost $800 million. And that gave us really, really, really nice net operating income return. We had 2 billion for the Raiders over 40 years. We had surplus revenue outside of the Raiders of $577 million. 517 million, excuse me. Because we had the hotels complex as well. I loved it. If Davis had said, hey, you know what? Let's do a refurbishment. Let's upgrade. The Raiders and the city and the county collectively would have been sitting pretty. But no, he wanted a brand new facility. And I got the impression he was always like kind of upping the bar on us, rather than looking at what was really fiscally doable. And what bothers me about the whole doggone thing is he asks me to do this and then doesn't call me in for a meeting to go over what I come up with, where I could have invited Piper Jaffray investment bankers, right? I mean, great. And stupid me, I never asked for a cent. Never did. I was honored to do it. Wasn't that stupid of me? But, on the other hand, as I look at it, he didn't know that I could do this, right? So I figured, you know what? I'll just do it. So I did. You want to see it? If you haven't seen it before, just type Oakland Coliseum reboot. First result on Google. Check it out. All right. Let's see here. Cabarrus says, rest in peace, Paul Allen, a true example of NFL owner. And he says, this is one of the more iconic franchises in the NFL, and it's being ran like a joke. It's being run like a joke. And in defense of the Raiders, the Coliseum for years has been ran like a high school gymnasium. And even then, Scott McKibben doing a fantastic job, doesn't have all the resources he needs as executive director. Andre Banks, how you doing? Andre says, if you were the Raiders owner, what would you do to get them back on track? Wow. First, hey, Andre, how you doing? Same Andre from the Super Bowl? Anyway, years ago? Anyway, that's a great question. If I were, okay, I'll tell you what I'd do. I would establish a set of partner sponsorships. I would have done that yesterday with the tech community. I mean, look, you have a situation today where you have Apple, Facebook, and Amazon that have the collective wealth of that exceeds the majority of countries in the world. Do you realize that? And you mean all right here in the Bay Area? Well, Amazon's up north in Washington, but most of them right here in the Bay Area. So you mean to tell me you can't get a deal done with any of them? You can't, as the Raiders, sit down with Mark Zuckerberg and say, hey, I'm intrigued with the idea of merging the Facebook ethos with the Raider ethos into a new type of stadium concept. I think Mark would be all over that, okay? I really do. I mean, at the end of the day, we're just people. But Davis doesn't do that. I mean, it's almost like he's saying, well, I'm used to the gambler types. I'm used to, they're more my style. It's not about that. I think the other thing, though, is that in defense of Mark, and I'm not trying to attack him or make him look bad at all, but he's thinking what many other people in the NFL are thinking is that, hey, look, our gravy train, our rights fee gravy train from media is going to dry up. We're not going to be able to get the gobs of money that we received from the ESPN in the past because of this device, the smartphone, the fact that the most watched media organization right now is Netflix. You realize that? Netflix. Netflix does not have the NFL. I've got Netflix right here, okay? Here's my, see it? Netflix, okay? All right? Netflix. So, and The Haunting, right? All right? It doesn't say The Haunting of Hill House, okay? Play. Ooh, it doesn't say National Football League, NFL Network or anything like that, right? Which I would have it to, set to if I had that option. Not here, okay? It's got Ozarks, popular on Netflix, trending now, The Flash, Iron Fist, Gotham, okay, Star Trek, Deep Space Nine, excuse me, Enterprise, Walking Dead, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., don't see Lost in Space mentioned. Okay, Batman, Joe Rogan, Ozark, Blacklist, Star Trek Voyager, Riverdale. Lots of great stuff here, all on your smartphone, okay? But not the NFL. There's no NFL here at all. It should be. That's a bad thing. So that's what they're concerned about. And so the idea of being able to bet on what a player does is, from a monetary standpoint, is enticing. And not only that, consider what it does. Remember the stadium team model that I presented to you? And remember the player model historically has been merchandise sales, right? And ticket sales. So now we add on to it gambling. That's a whole new component. But guess what it does? It makes the player part even more valuable, which I think negatively can lead to more player strikes and discord and disconnect, because the player value would be higher than ever before if you add the gambling element. So it sounds great, but it's kind of a Faustian bargain, okay? I gotta model that one out. So, hey, welcome to Zenny62, everybody. Patrick and Blackman's says, and if I didn't say so, one love and hello to everybody. And shares. Patrick says, Jacksonville was 47th in the TV market. Jacksonville owner Shad Khan chose to stay in Jacksonville. I think it would have been them moving. Florida is good with two teams. But here's the thing. Jacksonville, and one thing you have to keep in mind, is Jacksonville may be the 47th TV market, but you realize that Jacksonville is the largest city in terms of land, total land in the United States. And so what does that mean for him? It means that that's a large market that he controls, that he can expand. It means that also from a population growth standpoint, it's expanding. There are a lot of reasons to want to stay in Jacksonville. The land is cheap. You can build a stadium effectively. He has his global representation, talking about Shad Khan, and that he's bought, Wembley Stadium as well, right? So, he could actually afford to stay there with that fan base and realize a nice chunk, from a cost standpoint of change. When you consider the cost of living and everything else. So I understand what he's doing. And plus the fact that you have a region that's willing to spend public money on sports. It's one thing to up and move, but you have to consider the politics. So Calvin Morris says, rest in peace to Paul Allen, a true example of NFL owner. Hennessy says, I got that one. I got those comments. Cowboy Ref says, what about the Fresno Raiders? I'm not saying and like not possible, and like, oh God, do we have to think about the Fresno Raiders as an idea? I prefer not to. MM Forever, how you doing? Haven't seen you in a while. Asks, did you hear the Chargers news? Chargers are having a meeting about the viability of them staying in LA because they lost so much money in Los Angeles. Do you see them staying in LA or going back to San Diego? I see them going back. I'm not making a prediction it'll happen, but you know what? It's the most logical. It's the most logical direction. Okay? It really is. And Commissioner Goodell is putting a rosy face on the current situation, but if you start, and maybe I should, running the numbers for Los Angeles, and you look at the stadium cost and their need to recover, the NFL has got to be looking at the Raiders and saying, you know what? Maybe we made a mistake. Because there is a reason there is still no Super Bowl, which the questions did not come up. That was a question I was going to bring up. There is still no Super Bowl discussion for Las Vegas. Do you realize that? 2025 for Vegas is not a guarantee. And the problem is, as I've said before, is that the NFL needs 24,000 top quality hotel rooms within an hour's drive of the stadium. It's not that Vegas has it, but they're not going to be available. So what you get is price gouging, okay, on an unprecedented level, which goes outside the National Football League's stated desire to have an affordable Super Bowl. I haven't heard the league turn around and say, gee, you know, we're going to like break that and we're just going to like go for broke in Vegas and we're going to basically gouge everybody. That's not what the league wants. The NFL has always wanted to be family friendly. In fact, the Raiders themselves have said they want a family friendly stadium in Las Vegas. How can you have a family friendly stadium in Las Vegas when you're charging prices that only the internationally jet set wealthy can afford? Okay, you can't, unless of course you're talking about rich families. So I don't see the Super Bowl working there unless you build NFL Super Bowl City, a complex a lot like City Center in Las Vegas that has 10,000 hotel rooms. You add 10,000 hotel rooms to the inventory, you reduce the price pressure. You provide a block of rooms the NFL controls. The NFL can partner with a hotel brand, build it, right? The NFL, what hotel, you know, what the Marriott would love that, I would think. So the question is, where would you build it? But, you know, there's land off in the West. Definitely doable. West of the Strip. Definitely doable. Okay? Definitely doable. But it's also much needed. So then the question is, if the NFL builds a Super Bowl City block, right? Then why not have a rolling Super Bowl where you have it in Vegas, you know, maybe every so often, okay? And I could see that happening over if the NFL were to make a decision to relocate the Raiders to Los Angeles, because you have to wonder, is Mark Davis sounding a call behind the scenes saying, hey, you know what? If LA reopens, give us a chance, because I'm not sure this is working out. I would not be surprised if Davis dared mouth that idea to someone within the league circles, thinking out loud one evening, but saying, hey, look, you know, we're on a path here. All right. But look, Mark Davis, and I remember his look. I was there when he realized he didn't win. He was pissed. He wanted to be in Los Angeles like nobody's business. He really did. And now that the Supreme Court has made gambling legal, you know, sports gambling legal, right, nationwide, it opens up California, right? He doesn't have to be in Vegas. Think about it. I think that money is great for Coliseum as well. All right, let me go back. Oh, Black Lion says the haunting of Hill House is horrifying. Well, say that 3 times real fast. The haunting of Hill House is horrifying. The haunting of Hill House is horrifying. Got it. M.L. Scott says, say a prayer for Donald Penn and his family. His mother passed away. Oh, no. Oh, no. Okay. Hey, Donald Penn, moment of silence for Donald Penn and his mother. It's the greatest fear of my life. Oh. All right. That's sorry to hear that. Thank you for telling me that, Mel Scott, and nice to see you. Black Lion says, one love to Donald Penn and his family. Cowboy Russian says, Inman forever. If the Chargers move back to San Diego, it will have to be under new ownership. San Diego hates the Spanos with a passion. Not that much. They would love, look, I'm telling you, if the city could figure out a way to build that convention center, and they have convention center stadium idea out by the water, by the Hilton Bayfront, do it in a second. Do not count that idea out. Cowboy Rush says family friendly in Las Vegas. Ha ha ha. Hennessy says if the Chargers go back, do you think that opens the door to the Raiders going to LA with the Rams? Yes, I do think it opens that door. The question is, how would it open that door beyond the opportunity? Okay. And now we have to get into the relocation agreement. The relocation agreement kicks in when the stadium is finished. I repeat, the relocation agreement kicks in when the stadium in Las Vegas is finished. So here's a weird thing. If the stadium isn't really ready until the NFL season 2021, it gives the Raiders that much more time to get out of the deal. I'm thinking the unthinkable again, all right? It would be nasty for the Raiders. It would be a flanks of lawsuits. And again, do not interpret what I'm saying as something that will actually happen. But I am saying that it is possible. I'm not saying it will actually happen, but I'm saying that it is possible. The Raiders could decide that the Vegas deal is not working for them financially, because right now it's not. We're building a new stadium. And again, going back to the example of my games, you had different options. In fact, one of the options back then when I made the game in 2003 was, hey, do you rehabilitate your current stadium? How much do you spend? Or do you build a whole new one? And then how much money are you going to get from the city? How's your relationship with the politicians? Right? I had all that modeled out. Ah, brilliant. Okay. Do you do what most developers do, contribute to their campaigns, hold parties for the different elected officials and all that sort of thing? Right? Help them with their initiatives. Yeah. All that will get you the dollars you need to build your stadium. Politics 101. So, the Raiders are at an interesting juncture, to say the least. Skeleton Crew says, too late. Raiders are already building a stadium. Cowboy Rush says, Hennessy, it's possible, but not likely. Right, it is possible. And I have to correct something. Someone says that the Raiders are building a stadium. The Raiders don't own the stadium. The Las Vegas Stadium Authority owns the stadium. The Raiders are a tenant in the stadium. A contributing tenant, yeah, but a tenant nonetheless. The stadium is not owned by the Raiders. Again, the stadium is not owned by the Raiders. Understand that? It is not owned. The Raiders can be evicted from the stadium. You understand that? The Raiders can be evicted from the stadium. So again, because of that situation, it does present a scenario where the Raiders could back out of the deal. The non-relocation agreement will be rendered ineffective if a special tax were imposed on the Raiders. We have an election coming up, as you know. What happens if Vegas gets political change so that occurs? I don't know. All right, it is 11:20. I'm going to work on winding this down, folks, so I can get some sleep. I can eat and get some sleep. I got to do a project for my client, which is going to take me into tomorrow. All right. Patrick and Blackman says, would Vegas accept this expansion team knowing they will lose before they start winning? Patrick, considering they embraced the Golden Knights, and look what happened. Yeah, just because it's an expansion team doesn't mean it isn't going to win right now. If that were to occur, which I doubt, I still believe the Raiders are headed to Vegas. But if that were to occur, Vegas would embrace their new football team with open arms. Yeah. The NFL would owe Vegas if the NFL caused the Raiders to basically change course and go to LA. That would be nasty. You would have, I mean, I can't imagine. In fact, you know what? Now that I think about it, it's almost unimaginable. And the reason why I say that is the number of power brokers that were assembled, Vegas, Nevada power brokers that have very powerful people. Not just Laxalt, but senators, Dean Heller, the late, the fellow that passed away, not Laxalt, Adam Laxalt's father, Paul Laxalt, Shel Nedelson, okay? Enough said right there. You have a number of powerful and well-money people that really focused on paving the way for the Raiders Las Vegas deal to come about. Boy, that would be, you heard the term "get your popcorn ready." I want a large bag with gourmet butter. Orville Redenbacher. Wow. And so we've got, Raider Lou says, at the end of the day, assuming he's the owner for years to come, I want Mark Davis to be a Super Bowl winning owner because that means the Raiders are Super Bowl winners. Bittersweet feeling, laugh out loud. No, it does mean that. I understand what Mark is trying to achieve. I don't agree with how he's tried to achieve it. It's not personal at all. I just think that, and I'll say this very candidly, I think that Mark should have sat down with me early on after asking me to build a stadium plan and really just talk to me, because he's afraid to talk about the past and didn't want to talk about the stadium numbers. Out of that could have come a lot of ideas I think the Raiders could have implemented to get them on a better path than they are right now. Excuse me. I know out of that conversation would have come a number of ideas that could have gotten the Raiders on a better path than they are on today. Now, Black Lion says the plan to build a new stadium for the Raiders should have been in motion the day they moved back to Oakland. Well, that Black Lion, that doesn't make any sense. Okay, because here's the thing. All right, it makes sense, but it doesn't make any sense. Here's why it doesn't make sense. They just got back to Oakland. Now, from a political perspective, they're going to say to you, are you listening, Black Lion? What was said to me when I raised kind of the same issue, no, the same one, when I represented Oakland Mayor Elihu Harris in 1990 as economic advisor in 96, I agendized, this is regarding the A's, I agendized the matter of a new stadium for the A's and for city council for discussion. And in the process, you go to the Community and Economic Development Agency first. Excuse me, the Community Economic Development Committee first, okay? We have the committee structure and then the council. At that time, current Alameda County Supervisor Nate Miley was an Oakland council member, District 6. Larry was District 7. Larry Reed. And I raised it, and I can see Nate saying this as sure as if he were here today, right now before me. He would say, we just spent $200 million to get back the Raiders, and you want us to spend money to build a new stadium? You see, that's the problem. And not only that, it is a kind of a small example of the kind of thinking politically that has gotten California into trouble where I contend that California has lost the will and the initiative to complete big projects. Oh, it's a cost overrun. No, spend the money. There's always some politician saying that's too much money on what? Well, you shouldn't have spent all this for security for Salesforce Transit Center. Are you kidding me? It's 6 stories, 1,500 feet long, and 2.2 billion, and it handles many thousands of people a day, several million a year, or projected 7 million a year, and we shouldn't have enough security for it. We shouldn't overdo it on security, particularly after the events of September 11th of 2001. Are you freaking crazy? Yet you have political people who talk like that again and again and again. And it is crazy. That same thought impacted what we spend on sports facilities. That same thought has tarnished California's ability to maintain a public infrastructure that was once the gold standard for the United States. From education to bridges. We had the Clark Kerr plan. You could go to the best university in the world. I did, University of California at Berkeley, for, comparatively speaking, a song. That was when the state provided 74% of the budget for UC Berkeley. Now it's flipped. It's mostly private. And the cost, okay? That's California. That's what we've turned into. And now we've got, I've got a situation where I have 2 friends, one running for mayor, Jesse A.J. Smith, who's now homeless. I have another who's almost homeless because of the housing costs around here. It's crazy. I mean, when you get to a point where you turn around and you casually know people who are close to homelessness, you're like, what kind of thinking is going on in our collective mind that we're allowing this to develop? It is that crazy, folks. All right. So, Black Lion, you got me going. It's your fault, Black Lion. Eldon says Raiders should have stayed in LA. That sort of way, you're probably right, but they didn't. I'm glad they came back to Oakland. MM Forever said, I got that one. All right, for some reason. And Cowboy Russia says, MM Forever, if the Chargers move back to San Diego, it would have to be under new ownership. I got that part. Let's see here. Black Lion says, LA belongs to the Rams. The Raiders need to stay in Oakland. Skeleton Crew says, more Raider fans in LA than Charger and Rams fans put together. There is a case, sad as to say, there is a case for the Raiders going to LA and doing better than I think they would do in Las Vegas or San Diego. Joseph Amenderes says, Black Lion Supreme, the Raiders have always been LA's team since they got here in the 80s. Case in point, August 18th, the Raiders took over the LA Coliseum when they played the Rams. Black Lion Supreme counters. Let's see here. He says, last time I checked, the Rams were selling out in LA, unlike the Chargers. Yep. Skeleton Crew says, Joseph, I was at that preseason game. It was all Raider fans, man. Kind of embarrassing for the Rams. Cowboy Wrestler says, I think if the Chargers move back to San Diego, it's going to open a whole can of worms regarding the Raiders and LA talks. Oh, you think? Cowboy Wrestler says, remember Stan Kroenke wants a tenant. And if the Rams win the Super Bowl this year, he might be willing to welcome the Raiders. Joseph, but he would have to talk to the Chargers first. Joseph Amenderes says, give Vegas an expansion team and call them the Knights. I like it. Cowboy Wrestler says, Z, do you see a scenario where the Raiders to go? Do you see a scenario where the Raiders to go to LA and Chargers go to Vegas? A swap situation. Let me put it this way. If the Chargers aren't doing well to sell anything in Vegas, in LA, how the hell are you expecting to do well in Vegas? You might as well just kiss the franchise goodbye. They're not the only way the Chargers would have any hope of succeeding in Las Vegas is if the Chargers were to totally rebrand Las Vegas Chargers. Has a nice ring to it, more comfortable than the Raiders. My whole point is I like them. I like the idea of a rebrand for the Chargers. The Chargers in Las Vegas as a brand will not work. The Raiders, look, have more of a fan base, this in Vegas than the Chargers do, by far, by leaps and bounds. So the Chargers? No way. I mean, not at all. You're better off sending the Chargers to Tijuana or something. No. So Cabarressa says, I got that one. Okay. Cabarressa says, I think what hurts Mark Davis during the LA vote was that he wasn't close to the deal maker, Jerry Jones. Could be. Yeah, could be. Rob Iman says a Raiders sale will come sooner rather than later. Cabarressa says, here's the thing. The Raiders have always tried to sell 20% of the firm. Keep that in mind. Cabarressa says California equals too much red tape. I don't argue with you on that one. Rob Iman says the end game is going to be Mark Davis being forced to sell the Raiders. Lyle Lengiel says these projects aren't managed or executed properly. We shouldn't be having such large cost overruns in the first place. But they happen, though. All right? In the case of Salesforce Transit Center, Lyle, in the case of Salesforce Transit Center, the uptick in steel costs after the Great Recession happened to be timed out with the time it was to order the steel. No one forecasts that, and it's the job of the builder to do so, not the executive director of the Trans-Bay Joint Powers Authority. In fact, the executive director of the Trans-Bay Joint Powers Authority, in this case, Maria Kaplan, should have the comfort of knowing that she has hired people smart enough so she can turn around and know that they've got her back and not going to put her or the project in a bad situation. All right? So you can't blame the executive director either. That's stupid. Well, I'm not saying that anybody suggests it is stupid, but I'm saying doing that is just not the smartest thing. It just isn't. Cabaret says Cowboy, he's got it. All right, got that one. And Rob Iman says, make college affordable again. Emin Forever says, do you see the Chargers moving somewhere else other than San Diego if they do choose to move? Mexico City? No. Oakland? Or San Antonio even. I think wherever the Chargers move, other than San Diego, the Chargers would have to rebrand. In the case of Oakland, the Chargers with their lightning bolt do present an intriguing possibility of adopting the Oakland Invaders name with the lightning bolt, okay? But it still calls for a rebrand. Instead of the Oakland Chargers, you call them the Oakland Invaders. But my sense is the Spanos family would hate that. They would reject that idea. And with all their hearts, they really do want to be in San Diego. They really do. All this was a reaction to not winning the vote, the public vote, which they should have known wasn't going to happen. They should have went privately financed, with city involvement. There's a lot of ways to go with that still, but I think it was more a reaction to losing the vote. They didn't feel like they were loved, but it had nothing to do with that. With all these high housing costs and everything, Dean should have realized he wasn't going to get that. He wasn't going to win. He didn't lose, okay? So there you go. It doesn't mean people don't love the Chargers. No. Rob Iman says that the best thing to do, the Spanos family can do, is to sell the Chargers. No, I think the best thing the Spanos family can do is get the Chargers back to San Diego. Patrick and Blackman says the moment the Raiders start losing in LA, it'll be deja vu when they were there the first. I know. Rob Iman says, how much would the Spanos family get in a sale of the Chargers? Let's see what they are currently valued at. Let me give you an answer real quick. They should be worth more than Raiders. Hey, by the way, how did the Chargers? Oh, never mind. LA Chargers are ranked 22nd. So basically, the Chargers are now worth $2,275,000,000. Okay, $2,275,000,000. They cost $72 million to purchase in 1984. Their revenue $346 million, but their net operating income is almost double the Raiders at $48 million. The revenue per fan is a paltry $14. Yeah. Okay. There you go. Rob Iman, I got you there. Detective John Kimball. How the heck are you, man? Detective John. Every time I see the name and I say Detective John, it reminds me of Lieutenant Dan in Forrest Gump. Lieutenant Dan. Detective John Kimball says, how about the Jaguars owner talking about moving their team to London? Maybe. Nah, I don't think he's going to do that. In fact, he's not. Because why would you be an investor in and a proponent for the Jacksonville sports complex, which includes, among other things, a new stadium for the Jaguars, and then want to take your team and move them to London? That doesn't make any sense at all. Hey, okay. We've got, let's see here. What am I doing here? All right. Let's see here. All right. Now, okay. We've got, what am I doing here? I got Detective John. Corey Brown says 49ers to Vegas, Raiders to Levi. Wishful thinking, not happening. Rob Iman says, no, that's 49ers to Vegas. Why? The 49ers have a good, overall, good situation. It's a little financially dicey for them, but they're not going to go from the frying pan to the fire. No, forget it. I'm not even going to consider that. Forget it. Rob Iman says, I think St. Louis would be the best spot for the Chargers. Bionic Chronic says, how you doing tonight? I don't know who you're talking about. What? What the heck is that all that about? Okay. Let's see here. Where are we here? Black Lion said the same thing that happened to the Seattle Seahawks move to LA is going to happen to the Raiders move to Vegas. Mark my words. Cowboy Wrestler says, I'm sorry, but I will never feel sorry for billionaire NFL owners. Never. Understood. Bob Iman says, Spanos burnt their bridges with San Diego in the NFL. Dean is going to have to sell the Chargers to return to San Diego. Bionic Chronic says, what? Okay. Cowboy Wrestler says, Black Lion Supreme, Mark Davis. Where are my moderators tonight? Doggone it. Black Lion Supreme says, Mark Davis would have to sell the team first, and believe me, that would be a positive step. Cowboy Wrestler says, Rob Iman, exactly. They hate his guts down there. Black Lion says, CW, that's exactly what happened in Seattle. The owner sold the team. MM Forever says, I love how this has become a Chargers chat. If the Chargers did leave LA, would you say about above or below 10 years they actually did move? Say that again? I don't understand that one. MM Forever. Kevin Russell says, Black Lion Supreme, could you imagine Mark Davis selling the team to a person who loves Oakland? I could. Cowboy Russell says, why would the 49ers leave that money-making machine in Silicon Valley for Vegas? It makes no sense. It doesn't. Hey, I got all the comments. Woo! Oh, wow. Okay. Something else. Something else. All right. Okay. Rob Iman says, Jed York has changed his book in the past couple of seasons. All right, folks, I am going to wind out, and I'll say, see everybody tomorrow night Well, actually, you know what? Wait a minute. Let me think about this. Yes. See you tomorrow night. See everybody tomorrow night. And as John Marks would say, watch horror films, keep America strong. All right. Thank you all. It's been an incredible hour and 35 minutes and 23 seconds and counting. Thanks, everybody. Good night. I'll see you. I'm going to type good night. Good night. Good night. Good night. Good night. Good night. Oh, if Corey Brown said you read the whole comment, I said it was wishful thinking. Gotcha. He says it was wishful thinking. Good night, everybody. Good night. Peace. See you, Corey. Peace. Love. Soul. Ow. Just kidding. I need to eat. Good night, everybody. I'll see you. Thank you. See ya. See you, Corey Brown. Don't want you to think I'm missing you. I'm missing out on you. Joseph Emmerdur says you missed my comment. Let me go back here real quick, Joseph, and get your comment. Sorry about that. Maybe you should copy paste it. Did I just run by it? Hey, why don't you copy paste it real quick? Thanks for the compliment, Joseph. I appreciate that. Good night. Good night, everybody. If you're just joining us, welcome to Zenny62, but I'm signing off. Thumbs up, everybody. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you all very much, and God bless. I'll see you all later. Thank you. Hey, if I didn't get your comment, just take your comment, because I'm scrolling back. There's a lot of them. Copy it and just paste it, and then click. It's easy. That makes it easy on me. You get what you want, right? So I'll give you like what? 10 seconds. 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4. Okay, here we go. MF Rose says above or below 10 years, Chargers move. Oh, I would say I don't like to make that kind of guess. I know it's possible, but I'm not going to well, you're saying what's the percentage likelihood? Okay, that's fair. I would say 66% being a statistical sure thing. I would say it's a 40%. Right now it's 40%. That sounds like it calls for a doomsday clock, doesn't it? Maybe I'll make one. All right. Good night, everybody. Thank you for doing that, MM Forever. Good night, everybody. I'll see you. Thanks a lot.